Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're your shortcut to understanding some, well, pretty complex ideas from various sources. Today we're getting into something really fascinating. It's this idea that, the biggest changes, they aren't always loud or sudden. Sometimes they're slow, quiet, almost invisible as they happen. And understanding these slow burns, that can be key to figuring out what's really going on. Which leads us straight into today's topic, the Fabian Society. Our sources, well, they paint a really specific picture here. They call them architects of a slow, gradual transformation. It's quite a thought-provoking perspective on how change happens.
It really is. Because we tend to focus, understandably, on the big bangs, right?
Yeah.
Huge events. But the material we've looked at, it highlights a completely different approach, much more patient, subtle, a kind of long-term societal engineering. So yeah, we'll be digging into the specific methods, the philosophy, and the ultimate aims our sources attribute to them. It's a real contrast to the fast, disruptive changes we usually talk about.
Right. So our mission for you today is to really unpack all of that. The Fabian strategy, their very potent symbols, and what our sources claim are their ultimate goals. By the end, you'll have a clear grasp of this specific viewpoint on societal change and the role the Fabian Society supposedly plays. Okay? Let's dive in.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's unpack this Fabian Society. Our sources don't just mention them in passing. They get quite specific. They're described as part of this larger group the material calls the O.k Club. Kind of an overarching, shadowy organization, maybe. But the Fabians are labeled specifically as its patient and insidious branch.
And more than that, they're tagged as the intellectual and social engineering arm. Their whole focus, according to this, is the slow, gradual transformation of the pen.
The pen.
Yeah.
That seems like a key term in these sources, like the whole system, the world states they're trying to reshape.
That seems to be the idea, yes. And what's really striking is the contrast the sources draw. So other parts of this OK Club might be about, grand cataclysmic events, what the sources call the Great Reset, that fast, big overhaul. But the Fabians, they're presented as the architects of the slow reset.
A slow reset.
Yeah, it underlines a totally different method, not immediate shock and awe, but a really methodical generational long game, setting the stage rather than dropping the curtain suddenly.
That distinction feels crucial. A slow reset versus a great reset. And it makes a lot more sense when you look at where their name comes from. Our sources say the name itself is basically a cipher for their entire methodology. It's from the Roman General Fabius Maximus. Could you remind us about him and his strategy?
Sure. Fabius Maximus, Roman general, Second Punic War, up against Hannibal. His famous tactic is now called the Fabian strategy. And the key thing, he didn't go for those big, decisive knockout battles, too risky. Instead, he used a slow, patient war of attrition. It was all about delaying, harassing, and gradually wearing them down, avoiding direct fights where he might lose badly, and just grinding down the enemy's resources, their morale, their ability to keep fighting over time.
Right, attrition warfare. So how do our sources say this translates from ancient Rome to, well, reshaping modern society, this gradualism? It sounds like it's their core playbook, not just a name.
Oh, absolutely. The material presents gradualism as their fundamental principle. The whole point is to reshape society from within slowly and imperceptibly over generations. It's not about revolution from the outside. It's influence from the inside. Deep, persistent, subtle.
Which makes it hard to fight back against, presumably, because it's so incremental.
Exactly. That's the insight from our sources. The changes are too small, too slow to sound the alarm bells until they're already part of the furniture. And the sources are specific about how. They talk about infiltrating the key institutions of the pen,
Which are?
identified as education, government, and the media.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. Think about the long-term impact. Shaping minds through schools, steering policy through government, framing reality through media. Slowly, quietly, decade after decade.
Patience is a weapon. Quite the concept. And sticking with core ideas, the symbolism our sources discuss is, well, it's pretty arresting. They talk about the most famous and secret emblem of the Fabians. A wolf in sheep's clothing. And the language used is intense. They say it's not a metaphor, it is their founding charter and their ultimate confession. What does that even mean? A symbol as a charter.
It's a fascinating point. The sources suggest that for those in the know, the emblem isn't just a picture, it's a direct statement. Their real mission, their hidden intent, laid bare. Like a secret constitution declaring who they really are, but only if you can read the code, so to speak. And it connects to another idea in the sources, this phrase, the elites are sheep in wolf's clothing, inverted.
Inverted. How so?
Well, the Fabians are presented as the classic wolf in sheep's clothing, appearing harmless, being dangerous. This inverted idea suggests maybe other powerful figures project toughness, aggression, wear the wolf's clothing publicly, but are actually aligned internally with the same hidden agenda. They look like wolves, but they're serving the sheep's purpose if you follow the inversion. It's complex.
So it's all about managing perception. The sources say the Fabians present themselves to the world as harmless sheep intellectuals, academics, and benevolent social reformers. Nice, thoughtful people wanting to make things better.
That's the public mask, yes, carefully crafted. But the sources allege their secret role is quite different. They are secretly the wolves who are systematically dismantling the old realm to build a new one according to the OK Club's blueprint.
The old realm, so the existing order.
Exactly. The current social, political, economic setup. So the emblem isn't seen as hidden, but as an open secret, a declaration to those who understand the cypher, a deliberate duality.
Okay, sticking with these powerful images, there's another one our sources connect to the Fabians. Their founders, apparently, depicted hammering a globe on an anvil. And there's a motto with it. What's the motto, and what does it tell us about their alleged goals and who they answer to?
Right. The motto is remold it nearer to the heart's desire. And our sources break that down pretty directly. They're remolding. That's the entire the globe. So global transformation.
The whole world.
The whole world. And the heart's desire, crucially, the sources say it's not their own desire. It's the will of their masters, the crown.
The crown. Who or what is the crown in this context?
It's presented as the ultimate authority behind this OK Club, the real power pulling the strings, according to the material. And the Fabians themselves in this image are described as divine masons, like they're engaged in this almost sacred act of building a new world order.
Divine masons hammering the globe. It's quite an image. It reinforces that this isn't just slow change happening by itself. It's active, deliberate, maybe even forceful, just applied slowly over time. They're building something specific.
Precisely. It's construction, not just evolution. And this brings up a really important question. The connection between the slow, methodical hammering and that final fast reset we mentioned earlier.
Right. How do they link up?
The sources explain the goal of the slow work is to reshape the world slowly and deliberately so that when the final fast reset comes, the pawns will already be perfectly conditioned for the new game.
Pawns, meaning the general public.
That seems to be the implication, yes. The population, subtly guided and shaped over time. And game appears to mean the new system, the new rules, planned by the OK Club. So it suggests this long, slow phase is all preparation. Laying the groundwork, conditioning people so that when a big, fast change does happen,
people are ready to accept it, or maybe even welcome it, as the sources hinted earlier.
That seems to be the idea presented, that the conditioning makes the final step possible, even desired.
So pulling all these threads together, what's the overall verdict on the Fabian Society from these sources? They use strong language again, calling them the most insidious arm of the OK Club.
Yes, and they explain why insidious. They're described as patient wolves who do not need to use force, because they have spent over a century slowly and quietly engineering the very social and political conditions that will make the final cataclysm not just possible, but welcomed by the pawns they have so masterfully deceived. So the insidiousness comes from the method. It's strategic patience, leveraging psychology, shaping culture over generations, instead of using guns or overt power. Their real power, according to this material, is in that subtlety, that long-term perspective. It makes their influence incredibly deep, almost invisible until it's complete.
It really makes you think about power differently, doesn't it? The power of the long game, the subtle influence being potentially more effective than brute force, operating beneath the surface. Okay, so let's quickly recap what we've covered from our sources about the Fabian Society. We look at their strategy, gradualism, like Fabius Maximus, but for society. Their emblem, the wolf in sheep's clothing, described not as a metaphor, but a confession. And their goal, to slowly remold the world, the globe on the anvil, following the heart's desire of the crown, acting as these divine masons.
And this deep dive really underscores how understanding these alleged long game strategies gives you a different lens on social change. It draws a sharp line between, say, a sudden revolution or collapse, the Great Reset idea, and this patient, engineered transformation over decades, even centuries, both potentially powerful, but one is far less visible.
Right. Which leaves us with a final thought for you, our listener, to chew on. How much of the change we see around us today, shifting attitudes, new norms, systemic adjustments, how much of that might be the result, the culmination, of patient strategic efforts laid down decades ago? What seemingly small, slow shifts happening right now might be part of a larger, gradual reshaping. quietly setting the stage, laying the groundwork, maybe even conditioning us for whatever comes next. It certainly puts the idea of long-term influence in a very different light.